listeners, this is Wiggles from Looking for Love and All the Wrong Dust Jackets, here to let you know that we're going to be taking the next 2 weeks off. We just needed a little time to recoup, regroup, and get back to you with some good episodes. So check back in a couple of weeks, and we'll be back before you know it. Bye.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Looking for Love and All the Wrong Dust Jackets, a show where 3 disgruntled harpies talk to you about everything we love in romance, whether that's books, movies, TV shows, whatever we like. My name's Liz.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Wiggles.
And welcome to the episode. This week, we are reading and discussing the book Whispers of the Deep by Emma Hamm. But before we get into that, I have to warn everyone, I have to let you all know that we are crass and unhinged, extremely unladylike, and we're going to talk about all of the naughty times and swear while we do it.
The mermen have 2 penises.
Indeed.
We're just going right into it, huh?
Yeah. That's what she said.
Yeah.
No, it took a long time, actually.
It really did.
Anyway, what have you guys been up to? Get me caught up. I haven't seen you in, 2 days or some shit like that?
So, I have been on a huge audiobook kick because I don't have time to sit down and read, which sucks. But I've had banger audiobooks, so I feel like I'm winning. The first one I read was None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. And that one's a mystery novel where all of the narrators are unreliable and untrustworthy. And you're like, what's happening? And then at the end, you're like, I think I know, but do I? And so, 4 stars.
Cool.
And then I read and just finished yesterday, Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. Really fucking good. The audiobook, banger. The narration is really, really fucking good. And part of the reason it's really fucking good is because it's narrated by none other than herself, Lady Danbury.
Oh, damn.
Adoa Anjo. And so good. So good. It's funny as fuck. I haven't laughed this much at a romance novel in a really long time. And I'm really looking forward to listening to the other 3 because I got a deal on Audible where it was all 3 for 1 credit. And I was like, yes.
Fuck yeah.
I'm really fucking excited.
Isn't that the 3rd one, though, in the series?
No, that's the first one. They all sound similar. So they are this order. They are Get a Life, Chloe Brown, Take a Hint, Danny Brown, Act Your Age, Eve Brown.
Oh, I have Act Your Age, Eve Brown on my shelf.
I made the same fucking mistake and actually bought the first one, I bought the 3rd one, and I was like, son of a bitch. And then I saw this deal that would get me the first 2, and I was like, yes, I need that. And I'm so glad I did. It was so good. It was, 5 stars.
Nice.
Oh, nice. So I have not completed the book yet, but I am currently reading The Hells of Notre Dame by R.L. Daniver.
Okay.
It is a sapphic retelling of The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh.
I didn't know it
sounds
was
exciting.
sapphic.
Oh, yeah. And so it's Claude Frollo is actually a woman in
Claudette?
disguise. No.
Oh.
Well, yes, but she's a woman and she is a clergy in the church and everything. She's the archduke of the church and everything, but she's in disguise. And then Quasimodo is her son, but she actually treats him like her fucking son and treats him really well and everything. And then she's lusting after Esmeralda.
Dang.
This sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
It's real good so far. And it was one of those things where I started reading it far too late in the evening. Just because you do. And all of a sudden I realized I was 96 pages into it. And I hadn't been reading that long.
Nice.
I'm like, all right then. All right. So,
All right.
pretty good so far.
Liz.
I have some things to say. So I've been on a weird fucking kick. I don't know. I'm reading shit I normally don't read. So I read the first 3 books in the Hockey Gods series by S. Massery. So that's Brutal Obsession, Davies Obsession, and Secret Obsession. These are dark college hockey bully romances, which is not really my thing. Well,
No.
the hockey one is.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. I read the first one, and I was like, now I gotta read the second. Now I gotta read the third. But here's the thing. Are they good? I don't know.
Who's
I
to
can't
say?
answer that question. Were they entertaining? Yes. Do I have a hard time giving it like anything higher than 3 stars because I feel like I'm consenting or like approving of non-consent and like almost glorifying and romanticizing SA a little bit? Also, yes. So, I don't know.
I've been there though, where you're
Yeah.
like, I enjoyed it, but I don't know how I feel about the fact that I enjoyed it.
It's like I enjoyed it, but I can't approve of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that leaves me.
Yeah.
You know, I don't often consume things that like that, but if I do, it's almost always on some fan fiction site.
Yeah.
And I feel somehow less inky about that.
Well, that's because fan fiction is supposed to be a dumpster fire.
It is insane out there.
Yeah, it's
I
a
came
wild
across
world.
one where the Pokemon become sentiently take over people's bodies, and I was like, this is too much, but also I gotta finish this. What is this?
I feel like when it comes to like the bully romances and the ones where there are some very questionable things happening, like I understand the reason in reading them. Obviously, I read 3 fucking books about it. Mm-hmm. I understand like exploring fantasies in a way that's safe because you're reading a book, and also you know the book has a happily ever after, or at least a happily for now. Mm-hmm. But like, as long as people are using intelligence while reading these and knowing these are not things you want in real life.
No.
Well, so the irony of you bringing that up is I just recently came across an article that was claiming that teenagers who are reading these books are having their concepts of romance, especially in heterosexual relationships, altered by them. So I don't know how I feel about it.
There is no teenager that should be reading the books that I just read.
Right,
Yeah,
and
no.
they are, though.
You
They
should be
are.
like 21 at least.
Like,
not even 18, like
we
21 to 25.
If you had given me some of the shit that we've read just like for the podcast, which admittedly is on the tamer side of some of what this stuff is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you'd given that to me when I was like at an impressionable age, yeah, that would change my brain chemistry a bit, I think.
But to be fair, tying that back to your fanfic thing, I read some dark shit when I was like 15.
Right.
On like HP fanfic or whatever.
I know, like, I don't know. I don't know how much responsibility the author is supposed to have in that situation because like it's obviously not suitable for people under the age of 18, but how do you keep it out of their hands?
I was gonna say, but they didn't write it for somebody under the age. It's not like they're marketing it as like teen romance or anything.
So like what control can they really have?
Well, the thing that pisses me off though is if you go into places like Walmart or Target and you see like Katie Roberts in the YA section.
Yes.
And you're like,
Oh, yeah.
what the fuck is wrong with you people?
I don't know. Like, this sounds a little sensory and I don't really want that, but I do think that like it should be acceptable to say that like if this book is at a certain level that you have to be 18 to buy it.
Yeah.
Now that's not saying like your friend couldn't buy it in the same way that alcohol is still accessible to people who are under the age of 21, right?
Yeah.
But I do think having a little bit more responsibility with that wouldn't be terrible.
I mean, they put age restrictions on lighters. Why can't they?
Right. If you put age restrictions on fucking spray paint.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just look at why can't we treat it sometimes the way you treat movies, right? Like this has a rating.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It would be hard, obviously, because books are so much broader than movies. And I would never want a book to be like censored in any way. That's the beauty of books is
Yeah.
that you read things that you don't ever see on the screen. And not just sexually, like all over the place.
So the other side of that is that I understand also with books is it's really hard to be like, well, you can't read this because you're not old enough. Whereas I started reading Stephen King when I was in the fucking 6th grade. Like, should I have been reading that in the 6th grade? No. But I did. And quite frankly, my parents let me because I was reading, so they didn't care because I had a bad attitude.
I suppose it's like you were saying, you can try to restrict it, but if people want it, they're going to get their hands on it. And then what? You have to tell librarians they have to card people to get books.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, it just, at some point,
Yeah.
you just got to go with.
I think maybe you just got to stick to, if you're a parent, that's your job.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know,
absolutely.
It's your job to like talk to your kids about everything.
Well, right. You're not going to catch everything they're doing. So instead of trying to like monitor every tiny thing, be proactive. And obviously, I'm not a parent, so what the fuck do I know? But talking to them about like, these are the things that are in media and
Yeah. Anyway, so a bit about this author. Emma Hamm started her journey online in forums where she wrote with friends, where they told fantastical tales and dove deep into fantasy realms that were built from scratch. And then I realized I could do this on my own and that I wanted to write my own book. Many, many books later, and here I am with more series under my belt than I can count and a love of storytelling that still burns brightly. If you have a story to tell, write it. You never know how many people will help you. Or I read that dyslexic. You never know how many people you'll help.
Fair enough.
Oh, sometimes I love being me. So, obviously, today we're reading Whispers of the Deep, which is part of its own series that includes Songs of the Abyss and another one, book 3, coming soon. But she also has 7 Deadly Demons. 3 of 7 are complete. And The Dragon of Umbra, a complete 5-book series. Of Goblin Kings, a 5-book series that is complete.
Goblin Kings.
Ooh.
And that's her series.
That's giving me Labyrinth vibes, and I instantly was like, ooh, Goblin Kings, eh?
I can't say. I didn't look into them too much, but they do have very pretty covers. Whoever she's got doing the illustrations.
I will say the cover on this was gorgeous.
Yes. So yeah, Danny, hit me with what this book's about.
All right, this book is about fish fucking. Kidding.
But only a
Not
little.
really. So this book is about Mira. She is a engineer and welder that lives on the bottom of the ocean in a like colony built by humans. And the mermen that are, well, mer people, I suppose. There's women too.
The Undying.
The Undying that are constantly, for lack of a better way of saying it, attacking this world that they've built underneath the ocean. And one day she's working on fixing something and an Undying breaks through the glass, being a real big sasshole. And she gets kind of left behind by her head engineer, which, by the way, dick move. Real big dick move.
It sounds like that was like the policy.
Yeah. I mean, I get it's a policy and everything, but she was right there. So he leaves her behind and everything, and she's trapped in this rapidly flooding room with an Undying, and she kind of talks him into like, I help you get out of here. You help me get to that elevator outside so that I don't die. And then he becomes a little obsessed with her, and one day just randomly kidnaps her.
Well, not randomly.
Well, not randomly. It was orders, but randomly to her.
Yeah.
And discuss.
I do appreciate at the beginning of the book, before we start reading, the author just puts in there, I get how science works. But ignore that.
But pretend science isn't real.
She's like, I understand that she probably would have had like the bends and all this other stuff, and there would have been more problems, but just ignore it. It's about fucking monsters.
I feel like if we can give Tony Stark the benefit of the doubt, we can give mermen the benefit of the doubt as well.
It's true.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Well, and she came up with a semi-logical reason why she wouldn't get the bends.
She had a suit that kept her warm. Mira, our main character, she had apparently a device that allowed her to breathe in water.
It allowed her to breathe like fish. And the reason, it said in the book, the reason why she wouldn't get the bend, because she had like the panic attack of, oh my God, I'm going to get sick from it and everything. But then she realized that she's not breathing in like the chemicals that come along with like rebreathing tanks and everything. But I don't believe that that's actually...
Well, she wouldn't get nitrogen poisoning from that, but that wouldn't stop her from the rapid pressure changes that they do.
Yeah.
Well, I think she sort of circumnavigates that with the like, I can put my tentacle in you.
Eventually.
Yeah.
That's a ways down the road, though.
Yeah.
What the fuck that was?
So I don't know how you guys were picturing the mermen. The Undying. I should call them what they are. The Undying. I can't remember what he calls them. So
the people of the water.
People of the water.
Yeah. I don't know how you guys were picturing how they looked, but in my mind, they were basically beta fish.
There's a picture on the front of the cover.
Yeah, and it's very flowy.
I mean, it is.
Yeah, so they were like beta fish with like electric tentacles for hair. That's what I was seeing.
I just went with what was on the cover
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
and
I'm
just stopped it. I didn't add anything to
Oh.
No.
the thought process there.
My imagination is very vivid.
That
It
is
likes
true.
to show me so much.
That is true.
I
This
would
is-
like to go into that brain someday.
I don't think you want that. I don't think anybody wants that.
I don't think you want mine either.
Well, I mean, and I think you would freak out if you walked into mine and you were like, I can't see anything.
Where is it?
I'd be like, it's all words everywhere.
The
Yeah.
differences in the semi-spicy minds.
Yes. Wait, so speaking of, when you read a spicy
Yeah.
scene,
Yeah.
is it just words?
For the most part, yeah. I'm
You're
not
not-
like
You're not like
there's
imagining
not porn in my head. No.
Oh,
Oh, how sad for you.
It works fine for me. So it's fine.
okay.
I'll stick with the porn in my head. Thank you very
I
much.
focus more on the feeling, right? So if they're talking about like him going down on her, like I'm like focused on what would that feel like on me.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll stay in this crazy business.
I kind of do both. I think that might have also been why I was a little more concerned when we read Not All Himbos, because I was unsure how I would feel with two male main characters, not because I am in any way, shape, or form homophobic. I just wasn't sure how I would picture it without there being somebody of my gender.
I just, you still have a butthole, so
Well, that's true. That is true.
so you just go with that.
The answer is I fucking loved it, and Amy learned things that week. But
Like, yeah, when they're describing like docking, I have no frame of reference. I'm just like, okay, sure, sounds great.
If you
You go
that
with
still
it.
weirds me
Yeah,
out a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit. But
Well,
Back to this, huh?
yeah, I don't really have a good transition, so I'm gonna just hard right back to the story.
Yeah.
So Mira, when we're first introduced to her, she's proving to be competent, but not very good at her job. So she's like really smart and keeps failing at doing the things that she's tasked with doing.
I think we see that though reflected again throughout the book because there's several times where there's an obvious answer and Mira just doesn't do that. She has like tunnel vision on whatever her idea is. Like when they have that whole thing about the language. So eventually they find Bite, the robot, and he can create language chips that you slap behind your ear and you can understand a language, which just seems so unrealistic, but also fun.
It would be a good time.
Yeah.
I did like that at least it's not that Bite just knew their language. He had to absorb enough of it to be able to like catalog the language. And I appreciated that factor of it, as it wasn't an instant, ooh, look, now I know their language,
Right. And so Mira is trying to get Arges or Arges?
Arges.
our merman, to talk a whole bunch so that Bite can understand and translate the language and then create a chip that she can use. And then we get like a chapter, maybe 2 chapters later, and she goes, wait a minute, just create one in English and I'll put it on him and he can at least understand me.
Right.
And I'm like, bitch.
I mean,
It took you a long time.
terrible idea.
It was not a terrible idea. It cracked me up though, because the second she said it, I was like, oh, I didn't think of that either. God damn it.
Yeah. So she does that a few times in the book where she's just like, oh, there's an obvious answer right over there. It reminds me a lot of more, I don't want to say more intelligent people because there's such a variety of intelligence, right? But like engineers, mathematicians, those type of people where they are so hyper focused on the thing that they like, the first thing that comes to their mind, and they get tunnel vision on it. And this isn't everybody. Obviously everybody thinks differently. And then she's just like, no other solutions exist.
Yes. That thing of, but I have this plan. And
Yes.
you're like, okay, but that plan's great, but we could do this instead. Yeah.
Your plan has 20 steps. And while it's great if it works, this other plan over here has 5 steps. So maybe.
Yeah. I also really liked in the process of them getting to know each other, it wasn't just that they didn't know each other's language. They were also struggling to understand each other's motivations. And so in some of the other books that we've read where there's a language barrier, or at least books that I've read, there's this tendency to be like, well, I can at least emote with my face enough for you to get the point, right? I'm telling you, I'm pointing over there with gestures and my eyes and my intonation, go there, and people can figure it out. But they were struggling with even that, where if you move here, then I have to react and move here because of all this suspicion they have with each other.
Well, that's the thing, right? They're enemies. So it's not like they're two almost alien creatures to each other. They're enemies. And so Mira is like, why did you kidnap me? Is this just a fun thing? What do you want from me? Am I just a toy? Am I a pet? Am I
I was
more?
just trying to do my job, man.
Right. And also, they're in such confined spaces. Because usually in those stories, there are things around them. They can point to a chair and be like, that's a chair. Mira has nothing to like gesture to or do. She's like stuck in a cave.
Right.
And a small one at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, Arges's motivations would be confusing to Mira because he simultaneously is trying to keep her alive and is also hella distrustful of her.
Well, and has no idea how to keep her alive. So
Right.
from her perspective, she's like, are you torturing me by only feeding me like a fish a day or something? Like, what are you
Right.
doing?
A human cannot live on just fish.
Which we find out. And I appreciate that the author like went down that path of, yes, we are throwing some science out the window for fantasy, but we are also having a human in the ocean.
Right.
So while we're kind of talking about what's happening to these characters, we really need to understand the world because this is, I mean, it's science fiction. And she says it right in the beginning that it's flavored a little bit by BioShock. And I don't know if y'all know what I'm talking about. I mean, I know you two do, but our listeners. But it's a video game where it's sci-fi, not necessarily steampunk, but like slightly older technology, but under the ocean. And that's where we are. We are miles under the ocean because there are these unknown storms that have kind of like taken over the world. We don't really get a lot about it, which is fine. We don't need it.
I did appreciate, though, that everything that we were being fed in terms of world building was really strong. Like I was so interested to hear more about the world building as opposed to it just being these like throwaway lines about everything that was happening. I wanted to know about the people of the water more and like their structure and like what do their homes even look like? Because we just got like snippets, like the littlest bit, right? And then with the humans, like how did they get to the point where they thought the best choice was to be under the ocean?
Yeah.
I did a little bit appreciate because like they mentioned that there are storms and that's why people are under the ocean and everything. I appreciate the fact that she didn't dive super into like, this is how we came to be here, blah, 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 because Mira really wouldn't think about it that much. She was literally born there.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't know anything else at this point.
She just knows that they can't go back to the surface and they're under the water and she knows snippets.
Yeah.
I really enjoy books where even if you don't explore the world building, you can feel in the book that there is world building.
Yes.
And I feel like even though we didn't get to see the cities, right, the underwater cities, we really only got to see a little bit of beta. We heard a little bit about gamma and a little bit about alpha, and even tau, I believe, is the one that we eventually at the end. But they all sound different. They all sound like they're like, alpha sounds like it's the rich people place, and beta sounds like it's the poor worker people place. And
it's a little Hunger Gamesy in that manner. And I'm like, oh, okay.
And you're filling it a lot in with your own like thinking. But
Well,
it sounds
and
cool.
Mira's an engineer because her parents were engineers.
Yeah.
And that's what she basically, instead of having like normal school, I'm assuming she had engineer school. She didn't, I don't think, get the impression that she really got a choice.
It felt to me like before traditional schooling where everybody's learning the exact same things came into fashion where it was you were learning a trade.
Yeah.
And it felt like that's how she got the knowledge that she had.
Yeah.
I will say I have very few critiques about the audiobook, but one thing was I didn't know it was beta because in the audiobook it sounded like they were saying PETA.
Oh.
Yeah, a little bit.
I was like, oh, that's a weird name, but it's a futuristic society, so who knows?
No.
It very well could have just been the accent. Also, you and I both speed it up, so
It's true. It's true. So when Mira gets kidnapped by Arges, the thing I think's interesting about the two of them, and I think really shows the power dynamics at play, is that Mira thinks that he's confused and obsessed with her, and that's why he's taking her. And she's like, no, stop. I get away. Like, she really does not. He even remarks when it's his point of view that he's not smelling any fear coming off of her, and that she just must be really brave. But in reality, Mira's like, he's treating him like he's a nuisance.
Yeah.
yeah.
And the perspective of Arges, which is that this stupid, defenseless human, like, why do they have nothing attached to them that they can use to defend? And that's why they have to create all this junk and drop it into our ocean, because they can't do anything without all this junk that they make. And so I just thought all of that was really interesting. I liked getting both their perspectives back and forth really quickly, because sometimes you have to wait so long to figure out what the other person is thinking. And I don't know. I just really, really liked that in this book.
I do love when he kidnaps her and he starts to take her down. He's taking her down to his city.
Yeah.
And she realizes what he's doing and she's like, oh no, I will die. And like squirms the fuck away. And it's in that moment that you're like, oh, she could have gotten away if she really tried before this moment.
Yeah, it's up until that moment. And that's another one of those moments where her like tunnel vision kicks in, because she forgets she has a fucking knife in her hand.
Right.
Yeah.
For like the longest time. And I'm like, why have you not stabbed him yet?
Yes.
Stab him.
I did really like that scene a lot, though, because it highlighted that Mira thought he was kind of just like an animal, slightly more intelligent than a shark, but not like the intelligence of a human.
Right.
Yeah.
But also when she gets stuck in the volcanic rock or tries to get away from him by hiding in the volcanic rock, I feel like the author did such a good job of like heightening the almost thriller horror aspect of it. Because when I was reading it, I was like, oh shit. I mean, I know this is a romance novel, so she's not going to die, but she could die. She should die, honestly.
Right.
She should be dead.
Yes. Well, the part that really reinforced that was she sees this dark shadow coming towards her, and she doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
And then it ends up being Arges, but it could be anything. It could be a million things coming to kill her.
I was going to say, there are a million things that could kill you in the ocean.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of shit hiding in them.
And the thing is, she knows all the things that could kill her, or at least a lot of the things that could kill her.
Yeah, because she, watched them from the city.
Right.
And yet still loves the ocean, which I like about that. I probably would too. I love the ocean.
I like it from a safe distance.
Yes, I'm in that boat. I'm like, oh, look, it's over there. How nice.
Yes.
Oh no, I want in it. I want in it. That bubble that he finds for her. I was like, I want to go to there. Can I be there?
I don't like being confined.
I'll go swim in the ocean.
No, I don't like
That's
that
still
either.
confinement. Like, you still don't have full control anymore. We were not made to be in water.
Well, yeah, but that's with this book that she doesn't have a choice on
Oh, yeah.
that situation. It's better than living in beta.
I don't know about that.
She has plants of her own and sundresses.
Yeah, I did think it was interesting the things that they managed to find for her that ended up being this character we never really get to see except from Bite, who has these recordings. I don't know exactly how you would call them, but anyway, they can project them kind of like R2D2 with the message with Leia on it. So, but he has the ability to give her these projections of the past, and seems to be selective on what he chooses to show.
Yeah, Bite has some personality.
Yeah, Bite
I
has
fucking
some,
love Bite.
his own motivations going on.
And honestly, I don't think they fully ever become clear
No.
what he's going for.
Yeah. So they are able to find this secret bubble thing that they created that a human could potentially live in somewhat cohabitably with an Undyne. And she it's all because this daughter of a general who helped create these cities was like, whoa, you're like killing all of the ocean floor life everywhere that you are putting one of these cities up, and I don't like it, and went off, or at least that's what Bite tells us, and it was never seen again, right? And then it turns out that she went off with an Undine of her own.
And built this, a home under the ocean, but it's close enough that she gets sunlight and she can grow plants and live a full life there.
And then dies.
Yeah, well, I mean, people grow old and die. Bite does say that she grew old.
Yes.
So I want to talk about how they got there, though, because what Arges says when this is now what, like, the third main location we've seen. We have the first cave they go to, this, like, forest of plants that she can stay in because they create little bubbles of little pockets of air up in them. And then this place. There's a bunch of other caves they go to, but like this is a third main place. And Arges says that he just trusted the ocean to take him somewhere to keep her safe. And that's another part of the world building we only touch on a little bit, is this like magic or divine thing that's happening in the background with like the ancients and how they treat the ocean. And on one hand, it seems like, oh, it's just people in the ocean worshiping the ocean. But on the other hand, it's also like, but is there actually magic? I don't know.
Yeah.
That moment where the like leader of the Undine sends him to the ancients.
Yeah.
And they're describing the ancients. I'm like, huh, okay.
That was the only part that triggered my, the term for people who fear large things in the ocean. I don't fear the ocean. I fear large things in the ocean. It's a very specific fear, and it has a term.
That you don't know.
I can't remember it. It's just long. It's like fucking 16 characters.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a moment when they were having that discussion with him and showing, because they showed him glimpses of two different futures too.
Yeah. How the fuck? I mean, they gave him some sort of toxin, and he had his trip and saw him either fighting the people of Beta or with Mira, and she's pregnant.
Well, and they told him that they're two separate futures. We don't have any real knowledge as to whether or not they have their own motivations.
Yeah.
Or if they're telling the truth, or if they even know what the hell they're talking about.
Well, Arges has a moment where he thinks that, though, too, because he is... So after Mira gets taken back to Beta by Mercedes, the other Undine...
The yellow one.
The yellow one.
The nice one.
The nice one. And then Arges takes his people to go rescue her, and he is fighting the people of Beta to get to her. He has that moment of, this looks a lot like one of the futures, the future where I'm not supposed to be with her. But then he ends up with her. So he's like, maybe, I don't know what's happening.
Maybe it was all one. Yeah.
Well, and what the chipper, happy ending interpretation is that the one where he is off with her and she's having his baby and all of that is a future where they aren't fighting with the humans because they've made peace.
Yeah.
But the way that the, what do they call them? Not the elders.
The ancients.
The ancients, thank you. The way that the ancients put it is that these two futures are separate, and that your goal with the other people of the water is not achievable if you go off and have this happy ending with Mira. But if what they're really saying is you won't be you won't take over, you won't fight the humans, then there's nothing to say that they don't make peace with them in this world where he's able to have a family with her.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it gets super sketch because they give him these two futures and they say, now it's your choice to pick. And he picks, well, I'm going to go be with Mira. And then they fucking go to him and be like, nay, bitch, incorrect. And they fucking steal him away and throw him in a prison where he's like tied up in kelp or rope or something. I don't know.
He's tied up because the leader of the Undine believes that she has poisoned him and is corrupting his mind.
Matira believes that, but she got that from the ancients. Because there's one line where she says the ancients are saying this path is too risky, or to the people of the water.
And again, we don't know that the ancients actually told her that.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if it's just her saying that the ancients said this.
And so I don't entirely trust her. There's something about her that makes me like, I don't, because he has such reverence for her. And at the same time, I'm like, I just don't,
She seems hella manipulative.
yeah, she stirs the pot way too much to be not up to something.
Because his blood brother, so his actual like brother Deos, is the like super militant, very, very angry brother who hates the humans. And so
He's
while
the red one.
Arges is off trying to get intel from Mira, Deos freaks out, and Matira, their leader, sends him to go attack the humans again at Beta, the city, but tells Arges that she's allowing Deos to do this to essentially blow off steam.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it ends up killing like almost everybody who goes there.
Right. It's an absolute suicide mission.
Yeah.
With
And then
no
his brother
payoff.
loses an arm.
Yeah, like there's no payoff. They were never going to win that fight. They knew they weren't going to win that fight, and they went anyway.
She makes it sound like she did it so that Arges would end up looking like the good guy in the situation. I'm like, that's a really fucking cold way to make somebody look like a good guy in a situation.
Except Arges wasn't there. They had planned all of this. They were literally ready to start swimming towards the city when he shows up and Matira tells him all this. And it's like, you had no guarantee that he was going to even show up at all.
I know.
While this battle happened.
Right. And so her motivations are very suspect because
Yeah.
it's like,
She freaks me out.
I don't know. I really have no idea what her end goal is.
Also, so the ancients, and this is just weird because this is how I pictured them in my mind for whatever reason. I pictured them as those like really creepy, super deep water fish.
Like the anglerfish?
Like the anglerfish with
That's
the
what I
huge
pictured
teeth.
as well. Yes.
But just like fucking like blue whale sized. And I'm like, why is my mind that's so horrible?
Except it'd have to be bigger than a blue whale because they say they feed whales to them.
Right.
Yeah.
That was the only time, as I said, the only time that I kind of got a little like, no, stop it. Don't do this.
The second I started this book, I was like, oh, poor Liz.
Oh, I knew I would have no problem with it, except for that one part. Because again, I don't visualize anything. So for me, they were just
True.
in the air.
I was just like, oh.
Well, in my head, they sort of had some of the look of what the other Undyne had in terms of body shape, but
Sure.
that they had the mouths, these horrible mouths of the anglerfish, and were kind of glowy.
There are creatures like that in Doctor Who, and it's terrifying.
Yeah, they're awful.
Yeah, they are.
Only now, make them fucking massive.
I know. Oh, God.
But getting back to Arges and Mira, I really liked how they developed. Like, yes, they came together quickly on the page, but it was over an extended period of time that he had held her captive, like several months, I think, in order for her to have gotten that sick.
Yeah.
Well, and what I really liked is the intrigue and back and forth between them, where they're like, right away, they're both like, what are you? Why are you like this?
Yes.
in such a way that they were horrified by each other and yet also like, okay, well, that's fun.
But I'm also curious and I kind of want to touch that and I kind of want to tap that.
Right.
I also love that, like, because he took her flippers when he was trying to pull her out of the
No,
lava.
she took her flippers off so she could crawl further into the rock.
True. Yes. Sorry.
And then
So-
he never went back and got them like he promised. What a bitch.
That is true. I had that thought. I was like, you never went and got her flippers, asshole. But so her defense against her feet, because it's very cold,
Yeah.
was to stick them directly on his crotch. She didn't realize that that's what she was doing, but that's what she was doing.
It was on the fins that they are supposed to use if they have young, because it keeps the young warm.
And apparently is a very sensitive area.
Yeah, she touches him in a lot of sensitive areas.
Yes. And the thing is, like, Arges, his perspective is constantly, she has no idea what she's doing to me. She has no idea what she's doing to me. And
Yes.
that's true. But it's also like, you could be like, maybe don't touch the fins.
You could grab her hands and pull them away
And be
from
like-
your gills and stuff.
And just do, no, ma'am.
Yeah.
But he likes it too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. She also has the thought, though, too, when he is carrying her through the water and he has his hand like on her butt and she's like, he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yes. He has no idea how scandalous this is. Yeah. Well, I also like that early on, trying to figure out each other's bodies, he's like, she's got these weird mounds on her chest.
What's that for?
What's that about? None of our females have that.
I also like when he first sees her feet, he's like, that looks like it hurts.
He was like horrified.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, dear God, woman. And she's like, no, this is just what all human feet are like. And he's like, they look very breakable. And she's like, well, yeah, if you try hard enough, maybe don't do that.
I did love the like physical exploration of each other. So she basically gets to touch Arges right away, right? He doesn't have clothes and he's carrying her around the ocean, but she has on a wetsuit and flippers that eventually get taken off, and her hair is usually in like a hood. And so he's just constantly like, what is she doing? Oh, she's taking that off?
Dear God, what is this? She's just peeling her skin off. What the
He's
fuck?
so confused. I love it. I love that at first it's revulsion, and he's just like, but what's under there?
But what is under there, though?
But he always respects her when she asks him to turn around.
Eventually, begrudgingly.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
just,
he's
like,
not happy about it.
pouts as he turns around like, this is bullshit.
Hey.
You get to look at me without whatever that is all the time.
Hey, he can pout all he wants as long as he respects it and does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did think he was very cute through all of those moments. Like and he was like so obsessed with like each bit of skin he got to see. He was like, but I saw ankle before, but now I see leg. What is that?
Or when she eventually lets him like touch her, when she has her wetsuit off but has like a blanket around her, and she's like, you can touch my leg, and he's like, what is this?
He's like,
It's
"And yes,
one-
I will touch it.
You just have 2 long bones coming down? How do you swim? She's like, well, we were made for that.
Not very well. Not Michael Phelps. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. Oh, and the scene where she puts the chip behind him and she's just like playing with his gills, and he's like, yes, this is nice.
Yes.
That was,
And then
that was
betrayal.
Nice. Yeah.
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 Oh, he gets so mad. I mean,
I do
fair
love that
enough.
Fight's reaction to that was like, this is a bad plan and you will die. Please
Yes.
don't do it. And she's like, I'm going to do it.
I know. Poor Bite is constantly telling her that things are a bad idea, and he's correct.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
Yes. It reminds me of the robot in Rebel 1, the Star Wars movie, that's constantly like, you have like an 80% chance of dying. So don't do it.
Don't.
And it's like, I'm going to do it.
Well, even after she puts the chip in him and he like freaks out and swims away because it causes initial pain, she has the internal thought of, hopefully that worked. It could have killed him. She's like, oh boy.
Say.
Oh boy.
And it's like after she does it, she suddenly is like running through all the things that could possibly go wrong with this plan. It could kill him. It could seriously harm him. It could make it so he doesn't understand anything. It could make him want to kill me. He's probably going to kill me.
Right.
Yeah.
But the following scene is hot, where he like leaps out of the water and tackles her. And I'm like, that's nice.
I was like, oh, hi.
Hello.
I will say throughout this entire book, one of the things I noticed that was so great is that the pacing kept me interested, and I wanted to read the next chapter, and I wanted to read the next chapter. And sometimes I feel like it can like fall off. Like you've got this cliff that you go towards, and then you fall off of it, and you have to climb all the way back up, and you can plateau for a little bit, and then you're gonna fall off again. And this did not do that. This was constantly a steady.
I was interested all the way.
pickup. Yes.
Well, I think it used the different elements of the book to do that, right? So we have the action, whether that's those two interacting with each other in a violent way, or the other Undyne coming up and interacting with each other, whether they were trying to steal Mira away or Deos was fighting with Arges. But then, of course, there's the romance, and then there was just also the the shit where Mira was dying.
Yes. And like I said earlier, the world building was so good that like even the breaks where it wasn't high action, it was piquing my curiosity for other things. So I was like, "Ooh, tell me more. Give me more. I want more of these crumbs." I'm looking forward to reading the other books so I can figure some of this stuff out.
Yeah. Well, I also appreciated there really wasn't any like supercilious fluff where like there was no need for it anything. Even if it seemed like that wasn't a big deal in that moment, it usually came back around.
Yeah, it was setting up something else.
And you're like,
Or it was introducing us to a different area or a different aspect.
exactly. And it was, I really liked that. I'm like, I appreciate the fact that there was no fluff in this. Like, there was a reason for everything.
Well, and I also like that, you know, it was almost teasing you because like Mira and Arges would get really close to doing something, and then it'd be like, whoa, we're not going to do that. And then he'd like swim away and be gone for 3 days. And you'd be like, oh, and then they'd come back and it'd be like, oh, we're going to go a little bit farther. And then be gone.
Damn it, my
again.
brother's here.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that scene with the hot springs when she was towards the end and she's like getting sick and she's like, I just need to be warm. And he takes her to a hot springs and she takes her wetsuit off. It's like, oh boy, something's going to happen.
Yes.
I was like,
And then it didn't.
Yes.
God damn it. I had to turn it off in that moment for a second because I was like, I was angry. I'm like, you frustrated me.
I will say the thing that did happen is his admission of like all this desire for her and he doesn't know that she can understand him yet. I was like, what are you doing here, Mira? This is very sketchy.
Well, also, I think it was showing before he even spoke how committed he was, because his internal monologue was that she's finally feeling warm and I'm sitting here boiling.
Yeah.
Like, I should not be in this temperature. I think that they were just really building to something bigger all the time. And so the interruptions felt real to life and not just like, I'm going to find an excuse not to have them go this far, because they internally, I think, wanted the excuse to not let things go too far. Any convenient excuse would acceptable.
Well, and it was nice to read, especially Arges's internal monologue where he's like embarrassed or ashamed that he's getting turned on, and then just slowly over time being like leaning more and more into it, and then he's like, okay, we could maybe do something. I don't know what. I don't know how this would ever work.
I don't know how this works.
Yeah.
Well, I like how it develops into she's my Kairos, right?
Yeah.
But then it develops into this thing where he's like, I don't know how I'm going to make it fit, but I'm going to make it fit because this one's mine. I have decided she is mine. I'm keeping her. Don't you fucking fuck with her, you guys.
Fuck you, motherfuckers.
I will come after you. And then when he finally is captured by his people and is tied up, and at multiple points, his brother, his blood brother and his friend and his leader all are like, you are literally torturing yourself trying to get out. You have to stop. And he's like, I'm not going to stop. Can't stop, won't stop. And I will get out of here and then you will never see me again. I'm going to save my lady.
Well, it became a fascination to almost like an obsession to like really caring about her and being so worried she's going to die if I don't get back to her. Either my own people are going to kill her or she's just going to be stuck and die.
I also really enjoyed the politics of what happened. So after he gets kidnapped, the Mira demands that somebody go and kill her.
Yeah.
And so it's supposed to be Deus. And he's like, no, he actually fucking will. He's going to fucking kill her. And so he begs Mercedes to show mercy.
Yeah.
And Mercedes is like, I still don't fucking trust you. You're one of an acromo is what they call them, right? And I don't like that. So, and she's like, but if I'm not in there, I'm going to die. And he's like, well, I got you here. And that is my mercy.
Right.
And so it wasn't just like Mercedes was going to do whatever the hell Arges said to make him happy. It was, I respect Arges and I know that he wouldn't tell me to do this if there wasn't a good reason, but also your people are destroying my world. So here you go.
The best I'm going to do is just get you in the vicinity of Beta.
Right.
But
Well, and the reason he wouldn't go any closer either is because he could then be attacked if he got any closer than that.
yeah.
It's not his fault the rebreather started malfunctioning after months of working at that moment.
Yeah.
Well, and we do find out later when Mercedes is talking to Arges that he did wait and watch her to make sure that somebody brought her into the city.
Well, and from his perspective, his people would absolutely do anything necessary to get one of theirs back.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's insane to him that it's a possibility that they would just leave her on her own.
Yeah.
I think that actually was a moment where it started to really concern him because he's like, they really aren't going to let her in.
I think the other thing I really like about that whole scene is it's built up to, because we get so much interaction with both Deus and Mercedes before that, and we learn how like single-minded and just like vengeance-driven Deus is. But then we learn that Mercedes is more open. He's the fun-loving friend.
He's got that golden retriever energy.
But when Deus comes to like before Arges is captured, and Deus comes to the like flower field. I know that's not what it's called, but so I'm calling it in my head.
Where she slept in the pods.
Where she slept in the flower pods and attacks her. And then there's like a whole battle between Arges and then Deus and Mercedes. There's a really great scene where Arges and Mercedes are like just talking to each other, like taking a breather from fighting essentially. And Arges is like, we can talk to her. Like, we can talk to their people. This is a lot more complicated than we thought it ever was. And that, like, scene built up this whole thing with Mercedes actually saving her.
Right. Well, and he kind of has this fascination with her world that Mira has with theirs.
Yeah.
Mercedes, I should say. And so I think for him, finding out that one of them is decent, he's kind of hopeful, you know, especially after he gets a chip and can understand what's going on.
Well, yeah, because after he gets his chip, he says he goes and like just listens, like goes to the other cities and just listens to humans talking. Ugh, he's a sweet boy.
I can't wait for his book. He's going to be full golden retriever energy. I can feel it. I will say though, one thing I hope she's not ending in 3. I hope that she's going to do 5 like she's done with the other ones, because what I'd really like to see is a male human and a female Undine, especially because of the dynamics of they talk about the females being larger, which is true in a lot of animal species, and so,
especially ocean species.
Yes, and so it makes a lot of sense that would be the way things had developed. And so I just think that would be interesting to have this guy, you know, maybe put aside his human masculinity.
Yeah.
And it would be a really interesting dynamic. But I'd also just like to know more about all of them. And so like I want to know more about the female Undines.
Well, we only get like a couple of scenes with any of them that aren't the leader, Mira. And we get one with another M named character who actually takes Mira. There's a lot of N named characters actually in this book.
There are.
Who takes Mira away from Beta when the Undine save her, who is, you know, a warrior, so she's aggressive and doesn't want to listen to Arges to save her, and immediately changes as soon as he's like, no, this is my Kyros.
Well, I think he says mate to her.
Oh, yeah.
Kyros is specifically with Arges I can't remember the exact meaning of it, but it's something along the lines of a moment of hope or something like that. And so it's specifically a word that he's applying to Mira, and it's not applicable, I think, to the rest of them.
That's right.
Fair enough.
But no matter...
But being someone's mate is apparently very important in their culture.
Enough so that as soon as that, like, you get over the species kind of like hatred as soon as it was like used. So that was really fascinating. And yeah, I would love to learn more, or have a human man with a huge merlady.
Yes. Yes. Mommy merlady. I'm ready for it.
Since we're talking about the mating, can we talk about that damn weird ass tentacle tube thing?
The one that connects and makes it able to breathe?
Yeah, because that was weird.
I mean, it was weird, but I can kind of see where she would get that idea from. I mean, there are species that feed off of each other that way in the oceans. And so I suppose that there's a way that could be a symbiotic thing. Obviously, she's stretching science, but she said that from the beginning that was going to be what it was going to be.
I found it a little upsetting when it first happened. I was like, did he just trach her?
Kind of.
Except he didn't know what he was doing. It was an entirely instinctive thing.
Which, and we don't have any evidence to really back this up, but my theory as to how this people came to be is like some kind of Atlantis situation, right?
More than likely, yeah.
You know, some kind of thing like that, and they evolved to be more fish-like, but that human and undying biologically aren't that far apart.
That would make sense to me.
And so that there being an ability to connect to that is because of similar DNA. Because obviously this has never happened with any other creature, including themselves.
Well, they wouldn't need it for themselves.
Right.
They would only need it for a creature that can't breathe underwater.
Right.
By the way, my first internal view of that when it happened was so upsetting. Because it was almost like a tentacle like went in and slit her throat to me internally, and then I reread it. I re-listened to it, and it was like, it's fine. But it was quite upsetting when I first heard it. I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think the thing that I find more upsetting about it is how often they take it out and put it back in.
And that it doesn't necessarily mean that you are linked to one.
No.
You are, any of the people of the water can just like tap in there, plug on in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was upsetting.
Universal outlet.
It makes your theory makes a lot of sense because they have a lot of redundant organs.
Mm-hmm.
They can breathe both water and air. They have multiple hearts. Like, why would you be able to breathe air if you've always been underwater?
Right. And so it kind of makes me wonder if their ancient biology, that was something that was, it's a hangover from keeping those that hadn't evolved alive, you know? That's my theory, having not read any of the other books.
I like it.
I do too.
I like books that
I like books that have me have questions.
right.
But like good questions
Yeah.
and not like, how does any of this work questions?
Yeah, no, it's not how does this work? It's this.
What's the theory behind it?
Right.
You're giving me enough information to make me think that there's a lot of thought into this world.
I like to be curious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, while it's weird enough that you're like, how, what now? It's also is not so weird that it doesn't make sense to a degree.
No, yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, it's not just one of those, I don't know, because things.
Right.
It's like
it's
this
the
could work.
opposite of what Ice Planet Barbarians
Yeah. I
was
was
for
gonna
us, where
say,
we were like,
I don't know.
how does any of this fucking work? Nothing makes sense. And I'm not willing to read 20 fucking books for you to get to the point where it makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, it's not that cold because we're from the Midwest.
That's true.
It didn't, unless we did our math wrong.
We didn't.
It was cold,
I believe in us.
and you wouldn't be walking around in like a tank top.
I think we had
But-
enough public education to make that math.
Yeah.
Mostly it's just skill in researching and Googling things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what public education teaches you to do.
Hey, you're right. You're fucking right.
No, but for real, I think the distinction is I want to be curious. I don't want to be confused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really hard, I think, because I've read a lot of books like this where it's a series and each one is a standalone, like between a couple or multiple. But the world has to feel alive enough to, in each book, to feel succinct. But you want to leave enough out of the book to not muddy the waters. Like, don't give me a bunch of exposition that I don't need. And also make it so that I want to read the next book to not only get the next characters, but be like, tell me more about what's happening. Like, I want to read book 2 for Deos, but I also want to read to be like, and we're going to go to Alpha. So now we get to see a whole new city.
Yes.
Yeah, I was the same. It was exactly the same for me. Like I said, I've already pre-ordered the audiobook, which does not come out till September.
I'm just going to read it and then I won't spoil it. I promise I won't. I would never.
I know you wouldn't. You better not. But I instantly was like, oh, I get a grumpy boy, grumpy one-arm boy. Maybe he has attachments. That literally just popped into
Like
my brain
sexy
now.
attachments?
Maybe. You don't know.
Okay, Danny, okay.
But yes, I was also excited because we'll get to see Alpha and everything.
Though, to be fair, skipping to the epilogue, because in this book they do tell us that they send Deos to Alpha to essentially kidnap the general's daughter to basically do the same thing to her that they did to Mira, which is Mira's idea. So there you go.
So it's probably not a good one.
Yeah, so it's probably actually not a great one. And I understand why they want Deos to do it, because he needs to like prove himself again that he can control his anger and rage and actually do what's best for the people. But also, if you're sending anybody on a semi-diplomatic mission, Why the fuck are you sending him?
Alone.
Alone.
What are you doing?
Send McCady's. Goddamn.
Right? McCady's would be the best choice.
Right. At least of what we've seen.
Yeah.
I want to kind of go back. I don't think these are standalones. I guess I haven't read the next one, so I don't know. But I think that you do need to read this to go forward.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean standalone in the sense that you could just like pick up any one, which was what standalone means. So that, yeah, you're right. I said that wrong. I meant like the characters, the main characters have their story completed.
Their main encapsulated story.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be more involved. This is somebody who hasn't read the books. I think they're going to be more involved than like when you read the Bridgerton books, where you get a little bit of what the other Bridgertons are doing, but pretty much it's just these characters. I don't think that Arges and Mira are done.
I would imagine not. Like, my first thought
that.
process is we know Deos gets the mechanical arm because we see it on the front of the second book cover. I don't know where he gets it, but my first thought process is he gets it from Mira.
Right.
Yeah.
She could be like, get me some more of our old like junk and I'll make you an arm.
Yeah.
You know, that makes total sense to me.
I did love that. So in the very beginning, when Mira is like trying to mime to Arges, like, I need these things, that he's like, she just doesn't know that what she's asking me to do is an actual mating ritual, but I will go get her treasures anyway.
I'll go get you your shiny trinkets. Here we go. Well, that constantly is like running in his back of his head. He's like, what she doesn't know is that basically we'd already be the equivalent of married by now.
He says that at one point. He's like, we are promised to each other at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then I also felt bad because he has this internal monologue of, this is the first time I'm ever doing mating rituals, and it is in a, not essentially wasted, but it's in a setting that doesn't count or doesn't matter.
Right. Well, that's what he thinks at the time.
That's what he thinks. And I'm
Little
like,
does
oh,
he know.
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
Poor sweet boy.
Don't worry, it does count.
It counts.
It counts.
Well, okay. I think we should talk about it because we haven't yet.
The two dicks?
The double peen?
Double dicks.
Double dukes.
But yeah, so
To the peni.
Yes, so they've got some bodily differences.
Well, I mean, yeah, but of all the monster romances we've read, it's not that many.
Pretty
No.
tame.
Yeah.
I mean,
He has a face.
he does have a face.
He
Not
does
just a
have a
skull.
face.
I do appreciate that. He learns how to kiss, which is very nice.
Well, and he'd been introduced to it because he said multiple times, like, I've seen your people doing things.
But he thinks that maybe they're feeding each other like birds.
That's true.
So he's like, I don't know what that's about. They learn to kiss. She strokes his fins a lot. Smashes some things that don't quite go together, and then he reveals, much like in what was that mermaid one we watched? Oh shit, what is it called? The Guillermo del Toro movie?
The Shape of Water?
Yes, The Shape of Water, where there's a slit, and out comes not one but two businesses. It's a conglomerate, a chain, if you will.
I mean, I don't know. At this point, that's tame, honestly.
It's true.
Well,
I was more intrigued by the bumpy tongue, mostly because she just described it a lot and described how it felt in places.
well, he did get to that first, for sure.
Yeah.
He was like, so I just like get in there, and she's like, get in there.
She's like, yes, sir.
She's like, inside. And he's like, noted.
Well, I thought it was interesting that he was completely just like taken aback, not only by kissing, but just like that tongues do things.
Yes, I think the way he phrases it, he's like, oh, so humans like to be tasted.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, you're not wrong.
You're correct.
You're not wrong. And so, but what I did think was interesting was that the first time, the solution that they come up with is that we're going to satisfy one at a time.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, Arges, hold the phone. I have the greatest surprise for you.
I got places for both days.
And he's like, this is amazing.
The amount of times that he was just like, what? We can do this too? It's
Right?
just like, listen, I got plans.
Well, he
Got
was
plans
so
on plans on
nervous
plans.
too. He was like, "Well, where do I wrap my tail around? And
Yeah.
like, what do I do? This is." And he's like, "You're not beating me up at all." Because apparently, when you mate with a female Undyne, there's like a lot of aggression.
Which would be interesting if we did the
Right?
male human,
Yes.
female Undyne,
Beat him up.
beating him up.
She's gonna have to learn to be gentle. She's gonna be like, "This sucks,"
or not. Or he's into it.
or he's into
Or
it.
he's into it, which
Either way, I want to read it. I want to read it so bad.
I did like that he was always very Arges in their lovemaking was always very like, tell me what to do. Okay, are you good? Did that feel good? Are
Right.
you okay?
Are you
Tell
sure
me
that
more.
this is a good choice? And she's like, yes, yes, oh my God. And he's like, okay,
there
I will
are
keep going. How about this?
so many green lights. Go.
Yeah. We appreciate a check-in though.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was throwing up green flags once he got there. He was
Yeah.
like, yes, yes, yes. I will do what you want, ma'am.
Don't ever call me ma'am in the midst of passion.
Should I call you sir?
I'd like it better than ma'am.
You know, under the right context, I could take a ma'am.
I just don't like ma'am. I'm just like, no.
I will say though, I did also like when Arges took charge. Like the first time when he flipped her around and was like, don't worry, I got a second one.
He's like, we're not done, ma'am. We are not done. Yeah.
I got locked and loaded for 2.
Just keep going, apparently.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting that at no point did the thought, and this is very Mira of Mira, did the cross her mind that like, if he's putting that in, something else could come out 9 months later.
Right.
And he's like, yes.
He already had the vision that it could happen.
Yeah, so he's like, let's do this. I'm about to get you pregnant. And I'm like, did you ever cross your mind that there could be some interspecies baby making? And nope.
I mean, it
She's
is a
just
very
gonna get
Mira
a
thing.
surprise later on.
Yeah.
Also, I'm curious. It doesn't seem like there's a ton of their people. So are they one at a timers, or are they like obviously Arges and Deos were born at the same time?
Were they born at the same time?
I don't think they're twins.
The way they talk about it, I thought they were twins, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't over
I
interpreting it.
think one of them is older than the other.
Or they're twins. I don't know.
I
You're
don't
right.
know.
I don't know.
I don't think they have like schools like fish do.
Hope not.
I hope not.
That'd be terrifying, and I would feel
Suddenly
real bad
this
for
turns
Mira.
into a horror story and not a romance, and that's how quickly it can change.
It's true.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think they obviously would have the ability to have twins, just like people do, and
Who's
triplets.
to know? Who's to know? What if they are John and Kate plus aiding it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of fertility drugs involved in that one.
My big question is, it's a book, so magically somehow this baby is going to be able to survive. But what if it got the wrong parts from the wrong parents? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we got problems.
How you keep a rebreather on a newborn?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know.
I don't know.
To the bubble!
I like the thought process in a number of sci-fi things where the humans are kind of like the O blood type. Like we just produce
The
whatever.
less dominant.
Yeah, we just went, we're going to fuck that, then that's what we're producing.
Yeah. Maybe it's like seahorses, and so the men will be the main caretaker, and he can like attach to the child.
Well, he did say the place where she's putting her feet is the warm pockets where they're supposed to keep their kids. Mm-hmm. But it's just when it's with another adult, it's a sexual thing. Mm-hmm. Kind of like boobies.
Yeah.
Boobies!
Boobies.
When you said seahorse, I thought you meant that he was going to carry it, and I was like, oh, gods, that'd be wonderful.
I don't think according to the vision.
He don't got
Probably
a place
not.
to put it like that. He's got abs for days.
He is ripped.
You don't know. Those seahorses could have abs for days by their consideration.
You know, that's true. I don't understand how seahorse...
They kick out so many goddamn babies. It's
I know.
so fun.
It's insane. I've seen videos.
Anyway.
You know, one of the things that I think this book does really well, other than the physical interaction, is the way that they talk to each other when they finally do get to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Arges actually apologizes to her for kidnapping her and treating her like shit.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's like a big apology. It's not just, hey, I'm sorry and I'm glad it worked out. It's like, I'm really sorry everything that happened and the way that I treated you and the fact that we like had to go through all of that.
Well, and we also get an apology from Mira, which I think is appropriate and needed too, where she, you know, from her perspective, she's like, I didn't exactly treat you like you were on my level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? And I will say, one of my favorite parts was Mira confesses. She's like, I can understand you. So there's that. And he goes, I have thought long and hard about the first words that I would tell you. And you're like,
oh, I know. I had a little flutter. I was like, oh, okay.
I was like, oh my God.
That man just got me pregnant.
And he goes through this like, I want to tell you about the way you touched me, or I want to tell you about this, but more importantly, I need to apologize. And I'm like, I love you.
Yep. I was like, oh, he's mine now.
Yes.
Mine.
He was so, oh my God. Anyway, he was a really good main character.
He was such a delicate balance, I think, between like classic masculinity and strength and curiosity and intrigue, and then his own ability to thwart expectations.
Also, and emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he damn sexy.
I do also really like, though, that while Mira is intelligent, like she's an engineer, she can do all this crazy ass shit, it always felt like he was the more mature of the two. And so I think it helped balance the fact that like we as humans gauge intelligence based on things like and the evolution of civilizations based on things like the written word and using tools and all of those things, which we don't really see the Undyne doing at all in this. So it helped balance the fact that intelligence as we judge it wasn't really seen from him, but he always seemed way more mature than her. Not way more, but more mature, I think.
Absolutely. And it also kind of highlights one of those things that sometimes when people are quite intelligent, as we've discussed, she pigeonholed on things and missed the obvious solution. There are many super intelligent people that completely miss the emotional intelligence section of things. They don't have common sense sometimes.
Yeah.
And it is very much a thing with her in it. And I really appreciated that it was written that way, because there are definitely super smart people in the world that you're like, oh, honey, you real dumb sometimes. And it's because they don't have the emotional intelligence behind it.
It's almost like these characters were like
thought out
and have
and
depth.
balancing each other.
Oh my gosh.
How crazy. Yeah, I also really appreciated that we did get to see Arges with his brothers, as he calls them, both Deus and Mercedes, that it's not just he's softening himself for her, that's more of who he actually is, because even though he gets frustrated frequently with his brother, he does care very deeply for Deus.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're about at that time. And by that time, I mean ratings time.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
What's your spice rating?
It took so long.
It did.
But it had great tension.
It did.
And
that's why I'm waffling between it, because I'm like...
And there was a lot of touching
written.
going up to it. I think it's just some of the touching right of Arges. It doesn't really mean anything to us. So like maybe it didn't build the sexual tension as much.
I think I'm going to give it a 3.
I was also going to give it a 3.
Like,
I was waffling between a 2.5 and a 3. I will say when we did get to it, it was well written.
It was descriptive.
It was descriptive. So yeah, we're going to go with 3.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Romance.
I think I want to go with a 3.5 because I think it really did build up to it, but it didn't quite crest into a 4 for me. I think I might change once you guys tell me what your ratings are.
Cheater, pumpkin eater.
That's why I usually go last. I'll be honest with you.
I actually am going to go with a 4.
Okay.
The apology pushed it to a 4 for me.
That's fair. That was a good apology.
It was a good apology.
If there's anybody out there wondering how to apologize, go to this part of the book.
I think it's like chapter 30 something.
Who's to know?
Who's to
Who's
say?
to say?
Yeah, I will also go with a 4, I think. It was really well built up, and it felt like their romance was built on something that actually had a foundation.
Yeah.
And not just, well, I think you're hot, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to change because now I don't want to be a waffler.
All right.
Overall rating.
I gave it a 4.5.
Did you really?
Yeah. I really liked this book.
I gave it a 4 on Goodreads. If we did quarters, I think it'd be a 4.25. So like, yeah, it's in that weird middle ground between a 4 and a 4.5, which is, there's a lot of room there for things.
Yes. I would say I'm right in that same zone. I gave it a 4 on Goodreads.
The reason I pushed mine to 4.5 is because immediately when I finished this book, I pre-ordered the next audiobook. And that is something I don't do very often.
I did have to actually stop myself from reading the next book because I was like, Liz, if you read the next book, it's going to be very hard to talk about the first book.
Yeah, I've done that to myself before. I'm like, God damn it. Now I have to remember shit.
And then also specifically not talk about other things.
Yes. I will say the reason it's not quite a 4.5 for me is after the main conflict in this book resolves, at least temporarily, it goes very, very fast. And a lot of things are like brushed over. And I think that she could have spent a couple of chapters cleaning things up a little bit.
I agree with you. Like,
Fair enough.
After and it's not even, it's like between the first time they have sex and the end of the book, everything is so fast.
Yes.
And I was like, I just need a little bit more, I don't know, just more.
Yes. Yeah. My guess is that the thought process was some of the things that you would naturally have to do to clean that up are going to reveal things that would happen in the next book.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because otherwise this was very well written and very well structured.
Damn. Good stuff. What are your guys' recommendations?
Okay, so my recommendation is The Merman's Kiss. It's by Tamsin Leigh. It's a mermaid romance. It's a fated mate's mermaid romance. He's been avoiding a mate bond. It's mate bonds are forever, and he sees a glint of gold, and all of a sudden he's mated to a human. Yeah. It's not as good as this book, clearly, but
that's the thing. All my recommendations are not going to be as good as this book. It's when we read Ensnared, the spider romance, I wanted it to be this book. Like this book is what that should have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we got the like political intrigue, but not.
But it wasn't boring.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is, right? When you write a book, you can't just dump all this exposition. You have to filter it throughout. So my recommendation is The Sea Witch, a Little Mermaid retelling by Rebecca F. Kennedy, where Ursula is not named Ursula, but is a male mer creature as well, but with the octopus legs. And they make the deal in Little Mermaid, except he actually like helps her be human and like checks in on her a lot. And so they have some like very interesting, sexy scenes while Ariel is a human and he's in his, octopusy form.
So my recommendation is The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten. This one's a little bit more on the tame side, spice-wise, and by a little bit, I mean, there's very little spice, but the political intrigue is really interesting. The dynamics of like, who's your enemy, who's your ally, very interesting. I'm very much looking forward to reading the sequel, which I haven't gotten to yet, but I think if you are interested in that enemies to lovers situation, slow burn, this might be the book for you.
Okay.
Very good.
All right, folks, that's the end of the episode. If you like this episode, please find us out there on the socials at Wrong Dust Jackets, primarily on TikTok and Instagram, but really you can find us almost anywhere. Also, we would love it if you gave us 5 stars or like a thumbs up or a comment, whatever is available to you in the podcast listening app that you're listening in. And find us on our website, wrongdustjackets.com. You can find blog posts that I promise I'll update very soon. And the list of episodes we have coming up in the next month or two. That's all I've got, folks. Thanks now. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.